In this part of the tutorial series, we're going to look at modifying the appearance and content of your storefront. So to begin, we'll go to our appearance settings section. So over on the left-hand side, you've got a list of all the different areas within your Infigo admin area. However, the easiest way to access many of these areas, if you know the name, is to just search for them. So search for appearance settings, and then click on that section. Now, whilst we configured many of the initial appearance options during the creation of the storefront, we may wish to modify it at a later date. And a lot of these appearance options that we did modify are located in this appearance settings screen. So for example, one thing I might want to do is to amend the logo white option. So that means we've got a contrasting logo if we've got a dark background. Now, elsewhere on this page, you'll find a lot of the options related to your general storefront theme. So this includes things such as logo selection, as we've seen, color selections, font selections, styling choices. This is probably your first location if you're looking for general styling of your storefront. Next, we're going to navigate to content pages. So again, we can use our search box over on the top left and click on content pages. So this is an area where you can create additional supplementary pages on our storefront. These are additional pages of information which may be considered supplementary to our core content, such as, for example, some of the pre-created content pages, such as Contact Us and About Us pages. And we can create new content pages if required by going on this Add New button on the top right. And then we get this page here, which is just allowing us to specify the content of that page. The primary thing we need to input is the system name. And then click on Save and Continue Edit. So the system name just gives the system something to relate to this particular page. You can also see that's been utilized in the construction of the URL for that particular page as well. Now, whilst content pages are an important part of our Infigo sites, they're not critical, nor a necessity. Introducing you to content pages at this early stage has instead been done due to its effectiveness in introducing a much more important bit of functionality within your Infigo system, which is content templates. So content templates enable the creation of beautiful storefront content without having to tackle the specialized topic of HTML coding. These features are specifically designed to make storefront creation accessible to Infigo users from a range of different backgrounds, not just web developers. Content templates allow you to construct website content using intuitive building blocks and context-relevant settings. Infigo provides pre-made default templates to get you started, but more advanced users can actually create fully customized content templates to reuse over and over again. So the concept of content templates can be used all over your Infigo site to build out your site content. So this includes things such as content pages, as we've seen here. They can be used on your home page, product pages, email templates, category pages, and much, much more. Now, of course, at this stage, we've not covered most of those things, just to give you an understanding that content templates can be used site-wide. Generally speaking, wherever you see this option here, which is body type editor or body editor type, you'll be able to select content template editor. Also available in this dropdown is a code mirror editor. This may be more suitable for those with the skills to actually write HTML themselves. In this case, we're going to stick with content template editors. So I'm going to click on that option and then confirm that I want to switch to content templates. Now, the next thing we want to do is to select a content template to utilize for this particular page. So we have a list of available templates here. These may be context dependent. So if you're somewhere where you're amending your header for your website, for example. You might see a header content template or a footer. In this case, we've got a few which are applicable to this particular location. And now we're going to select the builder option. So the builder content template uses a building block style system for generating page content. You first create a section using a visually distinct separate area on your web page. Within that section, you'll then specify a layout. This is for information such as the number of columns that you wish the content of that section to be split into. And then within the columns that are specified by the layout, you can then add individual bits of content. So content offers a huge range of input types, such as titles, paragraphs, images, buttons, and so much more. Some content types also let you create even further nested building blocks. For example, the block content type, which you'll find near the bottom, allows you to place a separate sectioned off area within the column, which can then subsequently be populated with further content. So what we find when we initially switch to the builder content template is that a section is created automatically, as it is the start of any content using the builder template. So you can click on the section block, or you can add an additional section using the drop down here. Click on that section block to expand it to show what's contained within it. Now, before we go any further, I want to mention this gear icon here. So many of the building blocks of varying different types will contain the configure gear icon. Now, this provides you access to additional configuration settings for that particular building block. So for example, a section configuration menu that I've just clicked on here will show options such as those controlling the background color of that particular section, the default alignment of any text, default text coloring, various other bits and pieces. And again, they will all be context dependent. So the options that you see in here will be different based on where it is that you've gone to these configure options. So next we need to apply a layout to our particular section. We do this by going to the add content option, which is nested within the section layout. And this allows us to specify a number of columns, and we'll control how the content is displayed within the section that appears on the web page. For this example, we'll keep it quite simple. We'll just go on a 2-column layout. So a range of different layout options exist. This includes the ability to create columns of custom design, so custom width. For this example, as I say, we'll just stick on the basic 2-column layout. You can see those 2 columns have then been added, and then we can add content elements into those columns using, again, the Add Content button nested within those particular columns. So what we'll start doing here is creating some basic content that we want to build out. So I'll just add a few basic content elements here as an example. In our column 1, which is going to appear over on the left-hand side, all I want in this particular example is an image. So I'm just going to go Add Content and then Image. We get a separate section there related to the image that we want to show. And then you'll see again that we have these additional configuration options for that particular content type that we've added. I'm just going to select the image that I want to utilize. And for our simple example, that's all I need to do for our left column, or column 1. Now for column 2, we might want to make it a little bit more detailed. So this might contain multiple different elements, multiple different bits of content. So let's put a few examples in here. The first thing I might have is a title. And then I can customize that title text. And I can then add additional content again to column 2, so that will just show them one after the other. Go for a subtitle. then maybe a WYSIWYG or a paragraph. And then I might finish off this section with something a little bit more detailed. So maybe a button which will take us back to the home page, for example. So this again is just added as a separate content element. You can see again that we have our range of different content elements. We won't be covering all of these in the rapid build series, but there are additional tutorials available should you wish to look at them in more details. In this case, I'm just going to go for a button. I'm going to add a new button so I can add multiple buttons to a button section. And once I've added an individual button, which you can see has been nested within the buttons section, I can apply some text to that and then a target URL. Now, the target URL you'll find in multiple places when you're creating different links throughout your site. It basically gives you the option to either directly input a URL, if that's useful for you. Alternatively, you can search through your existing Infigo site. This includes, even though we've not made any quite yet, products, categories, and blog entries, or we can go to other content pages or general Infigo areas, in this case the home page. And once you click on a relevant link, you can see that it populates the URL for you. Once we've finished creating our content, I'm just going to scroll to the top of the page, click Save and Continue Edit. And then for a content page, we can access it on the front end of the storefront to see what we've created. So we can see there on the left-hand side, I've got the image I uploaded in column 1. And on the right-hand side, we have our title, subtitle, WYSIWYG or paragraph, and then our button, which takes us to the home page. Now that's a general overview of how to utilize content templates, and now we're going to utilize them in slightly different areas. So what we're going to do next is navigate to our editable content area. So again, go to our menu search, type in editable content. Now, editable content is likely the main area where you'll utilize your content templates in the early part of your Infigo journey. The editable content page provides access to a multitude of areas and locations on your site, which can be customized as you see fit. So the editable content page is split into different sections. So these group different areas of your site. So you can see we've got general, we've got homepage, products and editors, and so on. One of these sections is, for example, the homepage. The content of this section allow you to completely design the content of your main storefront landing page. Other examples of the storefront design which can be tackled using this particular menu of options are things such as the header and the footer. These cover the top and the bottom of virtually every web page on your storefront, and you only have to design these once, and this is done within the editable contents page. And then the same template will be reused over and over again wherever that is utilized on your site. So as an example here, we're going to slightly modify our header just as a very simple example. So locate the header section inside your editable content page and click on Edit over on the right-hand side. Now this editable content block will be using a content template by default, and this time it's the purpose-built header template type. A few entries are pre-populated by default to demonstrate the functionality. So if I just skip straight to my public store button up on the top of the page here, I'll just open that in a new tab, we can actually see the header that's being utilized. So we've got a home button, we've got a categories drop down with a few options, and a products drop down with a few options. And we can see how that's being built. Home button, categories with a few sub items, and columns with a few sub items. Even though we're using a separate content template type, the header this time, we can see it's still constructed in the same manner as we saw on the content page. Now all we're going to do as one example here is to put one additional entry on our header. And this is going to link to that sample page that we just created. So to add an additional option to our header, I'm just going to go to Add Content. It's going to be a singular header item because it doesn't need a separate submenu dropdown. And then all we need to do is give that section a name and then assign a URL. So I'm going to get this to link to our sample content page. And then to locate the relevant URL, same as before. This time I'm searching for a content page, which is one of the ones we already created. And then I can search through a filterable list of the current entry type. So I can see I'm looking through my content pages for something called my sample content page. And then it will populate the relevant URL. Alternatively, I can just put the URL straight in here. I'm going to save that entry and then refresh my home page. And what we should see is that that extra link has now been made available on our header. I can click on that to take us to our additional sample page that we just made, but we can see that that button is still available because it's attached to our header. It's going to be visible wherever our header is utilized. Now, before we move on, just a quick note about the public store button that we have here. You will not see this when you're logged in as your platform administrator, specifically when you're not impersonating another user, as they don't have direct access to the Storefront front end. So just keep that in mind when you're utilizing your accounts. Okay, so next we're just going to briefly look at modifying our home page contents. So navigate back to your editable content page, and then we're going to go to the home page section, which at this time is section 2. And this is split into 3 areas. We've got the home page banner, which appears at the top of the screen, followed by the above mid-page content and the below mid-page content section. In our example, we'll just go to the home page banner, and just to demonstrate what we're going to do here, we're just going to delete the slider to show those changes in action. So if I navigate back to my home page, you can see by default we have a slider at the top of the screen. And let's say in this case we just don't want this section. So I can just navigate to my home page banner section within editable content and just completely delete that slider section. Click Save. Refresh my home page. And we should see those changes instantly reflected.